Bitcoin 2025 to 2026, the ultimate astrological analysis. A definitive deep dive into Bitcoin through the lens of Vedic astrology. Bitcoin needs no introduction. It's the gold standard of digital currency and is set to completely transform our world. Financial astrologers use multiple different charts for Bitcoin, so let's explore which one is the true birth time for Bitcoin. Chart 1, the Genesis block. The time data for the Bitcoin Genesis block is January the 3rd, 2009, 1815 UTC. This is widely accepted as the timestamp embedded in Bitcoin's Genesis block, recorded by multiple reliable sources such as blockchain.com, Bitcoin Wiki, Binance Academy, and technical blockchain explorers. The physical location of the mining of the Genesis block is not definitively known. However, astrological researchers often adopt London, UK as the location for chart rectification purposes, partly because the embedded message in the Genesis block references the Times, a British newspaper, and British spelling is used. Some also use Dublin or other locations, but London is the most commonly used place in professional financial astrology research due to this cultural and symbolic connection. This gives us one example of high probability birth data for Bitcoin. January the 3rd, 2009, 15 minutes past 6, London, UK. This gives us the following astrological chart. My system of choice for financial astrology is tropical Vedic astrology, where we use the equinoxes and solstices to set up the 0 degree of Aries point, as per Western astrology, but using Vedic techniques and sidereal nakshatras. This approach aligns with high-quality research conducted on the original Sanskrit astrological texts by world-class astrologers such as Ernst Wilhelm. This birth time, Friday the 9th of January 2009 at 5 minutes past 5, originates from the raw email headers of Satoshi Nakamoto's announcement for Bitcoin version 0.1, sent from satoshi@vistomail.com to the public cryptography mailing list. This was sent at 5 minutes past 5 PST on January the 9th, 2009. This email, archived since its posting, marked the official public release following the network's Genesis block on January the 3rd, with the date reflecting the sender's Pacific Standard Time Zone. While some list archives show a January the 8th EST processing timestamp due to server delays across time zones. The full message, including download links and setup details, is publicly accessible via metsdoud.com's Pipermail archive, preserving Bitcoin's public debut. The location used here is Los Angeles, California, because this public release was sent in the PST, Pacific Standard Time Zone. Most astrological and crypto history researchers use LA as the event location for this second birth of Bitcoin, since PST corresponds to these regions and no other city has definitive evidence. This gives us the following viable chart. January the 9th, 2009, 5 minutes past 5, Los Angeles, California. The chart for the first Bitcoin transaction is the third most viable chart after the Genesis block and software release. This captures the first peer-to-peer transfer on January the 12th, 2009 at 3:30 UTC, when Satoshi Nakamoto sent 10 Bitcoin to early adopter Hal Finney as a proof-of-concept test. This digital event, lacking a physical location, is typically charted at Greenwich, UK, for its UTC alignment. This gives us the following third viable chart. January the 12th, 2009, 3:30 AM, Greenwich, UK. Which chart is the true chart? To answer that, we need to understand not only the historical research, but the kala of each chart. In Vedic astrology, we tend to look at three basic aspects to get a rough first impression of the kala and karma of an asset. Kala is a Sanskrit word that fundamentally means time, based on the context of its use. In astrology, we use it as a word that describes the fundamental quality of time at a certain moment. In Ayurveda, Kala is one of the fundamental elements that possesses qualities, guna, and resultant effects, karma. It can be seen as having its own energetic influence, not just a duration. In Vedic cosmology, as described in texts such as Surya Siddhanta and the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, Kala is described as the cause of change, movement, and the manifest universe. It creates all things through cycles, transformations, and the unfolding of events. Kala is invoked both as the period of time and the energy or force that characterizes moments, cycles, or transits. In financial astrology, we use this to gain an initial impression of the inherent quality of an asset. After a detailed analysis of the three charts, I believe Chart 1, the Genesis block, January the 3rd, 2009, 15 minutes past 6, London, UK, emerges as the definitive true birth chart of Bitcoin. Why? The stellium of planets in Capricorn in the 6th house of work, service, daily routines, and systems. Bitcoin's revolution, the Pluto aspect, is not through overt public or political means, signified by the 10th house, but by creating a superior system, the 6th house, for money and transactions. It aims to replace the old authorities, Capricorn, by outworking them, by being a more robust, efficient, and trustworthy store of value system. The ruler of the ascendant being alongside this 6th house stellium aligns with the proof of work protocol. 2. Saturn in Virgo in the 2nd house, opposing Uranus in Pisces in the 8th house. This is a classic aspect for revolutionary change, specifically placed in the 2 houses of finances, as differentiated from the other charts, that breaks old financial structures. Saturn in the 2nd house of values, money, and possessions is in direct tension with Uranus in the 8th house of shared resources, debt, taxes, and other people's money. This is a financial revolution marker, which doesn't show up in the specific financial axis on other charts. Saturn, the conservative, the traditional, the inherent structures of finance, is in direct opposition with brand new technology, with revolutionary blockchain innovation, and with an innovative, rebellious cultural theme. This really marks the tension between the old financial system and the new financial system. 3. The Genesis block message. Not only is this definitively provable that this was the Genesis block, the fact that it has a London, UK reference within the block is the biggest smoking gun. On the first transaction chart, the 3rd house is about peer-to-peer exchange, short journeys, and everyday transactions. This does perfectly describe the act of sending Bitcoin to Hal Finney. However, it drastically reduces the scale and ambition of Bitcoin's core purpose. Also, the Aquarius stellium is now placed in the 4th house of home, roots, and private spaces, which just doesn't archetypally add up for a revolutionary financial asset. On top of this, after conducting some deep comparisons into the natal nakshatras of each chart, which would be too long to post here, I'm certain that the Genesis block chart of January 3rd, 2009 at 18:15 in London, UK is the true chart of Bitcoin. Let's look into why and see how the major time periods in Bitcoin's life beautifully synchronize with this chart. The moon is placed in the 9th house in Aries, symbolizing new beginnings, ventures, bold new starts. Aries is the first of the signs and has the element of fire. It gives the quality of initiation, bold new action, pioneering, endeavor, and beginnings. In the 9th house, it suggests not just a monetary asset, but a bold new vision and philosophy surrounding money. The moon is the lord of the 12th house, a house of liminal spaces and foreign lands. It speaks to the anonymity of the creator, the decentralized nature of the asset, which doesn't appear in a physical space but in the ether. The 12th house is associated with isolation, foreign places, liminal spaces, and things that emerge behind the scenes. In the Vedic system, the moon lies in the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada, which is a surprisingly spiritual nakshatra associated with the Kundalini power. It embodies stability and depth. This nakshatra's Shakti, or power, is the power to bring about rains, or translated to modern English, manifest prosperity. You cannot have a successful harvest if you don't bring about rains. Very interesting for the quality of time associated with the launch of a revolutionary financial asset. This nakshatra emphasizes endurance, depth, and stability, pursuing long-lasting value over transient glamour or superficial gains. You might think that Bitcoin is trendy or volatile, and it sort of is, but the Kala of its moon nakshatra speaks otherwise. It is here to get to the core of what we call value, to establish real economic value for long-lasting stability and prosperity. It's considered a spiritual nakshatra because the split between spiritual and material is arbitrary. Wealth can bring about freedom to pursue spiritual growth. This is reinforced in the 4 Purusharthas, the 4 main goals of life in the yogic worldview: Artha, wealth building; Dharma, upholding society; Kama, pleasure; and Moksha, spiritual liberation. There are so many aspects of this nakshatra which really speak to the work that Bitcoin is doing on Earth, if you have ears to hear. Bitcoin has a Leo ascendant. This sets the context of the quality of this asset to be fundamentally solar, extroverted, outgoing, practical, and action-oriented. Leo represents leadership, confidence, and creating something new in the world. The ruler of the ascendant sits in the 6th house in Capricorn, anchoring Bitcoin's very purpose in diligent, relentless work. The 6th house is where service, labor, and daily grind reside. This is a perfect reflection of Bitcoin's proof of work consensus mechanism, which is a foundational aspect of its function. To remain secure and valuable, Bitcoin must constantly prove itself through the energy-intensive, relentless repetition of mining and verification. Its reputation isn't built on status or surface impressions, but on unwavering effort, tangible service, and real energetic results. Proof-of-work miners embody this principle, serving the entire ecosystem by actively engaging with challenges and offering continuous, verifiable service to the network. K2 conjuncts the ascendant within 2 degrees in Bitcoin's chart. This introduces foundational qualities that many astrologers might view as counterintuitive for a wealth-oriented asset: reduction, loss, and dispersion. Yet these themes are exactly what gives blockchain its edge. K2 signifies the dissolution of boundaries, and in blockchain, we see this play out through the removal of intermediaries and centralized authorities. What was once gated by institutions is now opened to all, trust woven through the network itself. K2's tie to karma and the past also echoes through blockchain's immutable record, where every action leaves a permanent mark and history cannot be erased or rewritten. Ledgers are immutable. The past cannot be changed or edited. Symbolism goes deeper. The Meena avatar, the fish in the boundless ocean of Vedic mythology that represents K2, offers a fitting parallel to blockchain's network, a vast sea of nodes working quietly and invisibly beneath the surface, maintaining the integrity of the whole. In my research, I've noticed that many of the best crypto projects have K2 powerfully placed in their charts, hinting that this mysterious smoky planet governs not only blockchain, but the invisible architecture driving real innovation. Its opposite point, Rahu, the insatiable, governs the greed and insatiable emotions of hunting for profit in the cryptocurrency investing or trading space, as differentiated by the fundamental blockchain technology represented by K2. The ascendant nakshatra is Pushya. This is an auspicious nakshatra associated with revival. It's symbolized by the blossoming lotus, nourishment, flourishing, success that endures. This nakshatra is actually one of the most auspicious out of the 27 nakshatras of Vedic astrology because it provides the nourishment necessary to help people reach their fullest potential, whether emotionally, materially, or spiritually. Notice how this philosophy of attaining wealth and abundance for the purpose of spiritual potential rings true not just in my work, but in the yogic philosophy of the 4 Purusharthas mentioned earlier. The deity of Pushya nakshatra is Brihaspati, also known as the most benefic planet Jupiter, which rules expansion, positivity, and growth. It's highly notable that this is the ascendant nakshatra of Bitcoin. Can you start to put together the pieces of the quality of this asset? And are you starting to see the wider goals that its karma is attempting to achieve? The sun is in Capricorn, in the 6th house. The 6th house is the house of service, grind, chores, health, and daily work. It's about all the mundane maintenance that keeps things going in our lives. It's not very exciting or sexy. Capricorn is all about stability, resources, work ethic, and providing resources from the sweat of our brow. This quality speaks to Bitcoin's purpose in shaping everyday transactions, the maintenance of the financial system, in a steady, focused, determined way. We already mentioned that the sun is the ruler of the ascendant, placed in the 6th house, emphasizing the themes of the proof-of-work mechanism. Capricorn can be considered upachaya, something that improves with time, consistency, and hard work. Simply look at the all-time percentage increase chart for Bitcoin, and you see this Capricorn sun in action. Remember, it's barely 16 years old. The sun is in Purva Ashada. This nakshatra translates to former invincible or undefeated. It's ruled by Apas, the cosmic waters, conveying cleansing, conviction, and the power to rally and launch endeavors that cannot be stopped. The symbol of the fan suggests driving winds or waves that gather momentum and publicity. When imbalanced, the nakshatra shows qualities of becoming crusading, proud, and unwilling to yield. This is literally a bullish nakshatra. It symbolizes a wave that cannot be stopped. We've seen Bitcoin rise from a novel concept of internet money to being labeled as a Ponzi scheme, a scam, a method for criminals to move cash. In only 16 years, it has gone from ridicule to institutionalization, with governments and treasuries of the world buying in and building economic stability using it. Expect a lot more of this in 2026. Bitcoin's key nakshatras form a powerful auspicious trio, speaking to a wealth-building movement that is revolutionary, nourishing, and unstoppable in its momentum. But can we glean even deeper insights from the Vargas, the divisional charts of Vedic astrology? The D10 Dasamsha Chart in Vedic astrology is a divisional chart specifically dedicated to looking at the karma of career, vocation, status, reputation, and professional achievements. It provides a detailed look at the karma of the professional journey of the native or asset and the lifetime of karma related to its work in the world. Bitcoin's D10 chart is genuinely astounding. It speaks to its completely revolutionary nature. It reminds me of Bitcoin's Immaculate Conception mythos. It's not so much the placements of the planets, but the amazing amount of supporting trines. A trine is the most supportive aspect between planets in astrology, when they're about 120 degrees apart in the zodiac. The level of support in this chart speaks to something almost saint-like. You can visually see it in the image here, almost like a Star of David. The levels of support here for the purpose that Bitcoin is here to serve is astounding. The ruler of the 10th house being the moon exalted in Taurus in the 8th, near Rahu, suggests that volatility is a feature, not a bug, propelling Bitcoin to global prominence, especially during periods of collective uncertainty or crisis. Moon and Rahu in the 8th house in Taurus points to both transformative financial challenges and generative force. Bitcoin can recover from severe setbacks and gain strength as it continues its long-haul journey to financial revolution. Notice the level of positive support. The Sun trines the Moon, North Node, and Uranus conjunction. The Sun trines the Neptune and Pluto conjunction. Mercury trines Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Venus and Mars in turn trine Jupiter. The Ascendant trines Mercury and Jupiter. Rahu trines the Neptune-Pluto conjunction, and Rahu trines the Sun. There is one message here. The career karma of this asset is set to change the world through a time of upheaval. Bitcoin began the 2010s essentially worthless. It was unknown, unlisted, with no formal price, but on the cusp of a technological and economic revolution. There are anecdotes about single trades for near 0.00099 cents per Bitcoin. During the 2010 to 2011 bull run, Bitcoin rose from around 30 cents at the end of 2010 to a peak near $27 in June 2011, a reality-shattering increase of roughly 8,800% as Bitcoin first gained wider attention among tech communities and early adopters. From January 3, 2011 onwards, Bitcoin would be in its third house annual perfection year. The third house relates to communication, information, early development, networking, local communities, learning, education, and skill building. This period would fit Bitcoin's early growth, expansion of awareness, and community building phase during that era. In early 2011, there was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 27 degrees Pisces, with this occurring over Bitcoin's 8th house of deep transformation, investment money, and other people's money. Jupiter is expansion, Uranus is revolution and rules cryptocurrency. Put them together over Bitcoin's 8th house, and you see the starting gun for the price rise which lasted into June 2011. On the 19th of January, the transiting Sun conjunct Bitcoin's natal Jupiter, a classic indicator of price rise. By the 16th of February, after the transiting Sun has hit Bitcoin's stellium of planets in the 7th house, transiting Jupiter conjunct Bitcoin's natal Moon at 4 degrees of Aries. This is a classic indicator of price rise. On the 10th of March, transiting Sun conjoined Bitcoin's natal Uranus at 19 degrees Pisces. This signals a surge in innovation and volatility. Regular readers will know that whenever Uranus is involved, we pay attention, because this planet not only rules innovative technology and cryptocurrency, it also represents revolution, volatility, surprise, and shock growth. It is arguably the most important planet when analyzing through the lens of financial astrology. By the 20th of May, we see transiting Uranus conjoin the natal moon within 1 degree, as the Sun sweeps through Bitcoin's 10th house of reputation and status, alongside Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter 1 week later. The planet of expansion going over the 10th house of Taurus from the end of the price spike signals a renewed reputation, fame, and interest, for obvious reasons. As you see in this graph, a cumulative combination of very positive astrological transits culminated around April 2011. In early 2011, Jupiter, expansion, and Uranus, revolution, innovation, technology, cryptocurrency, perfected a very rare conjunction at 27 degrees Pisces, falling in Bitcoin's 8th house of other people's money, investments, and transformation. This depicts an expansive, innovative, and revolutionary explosion with massive disruptive potential about to be realized. From that cosmic starting gun, Bitcoin started its colossal ascent. By late May, transiting Uranus was conjunct the natal moon, with the sun and other planets sweeping over the 10th house of status, fame, and public image, mirroring the climax of Bitcoin's run to $27 and its instant rise to global awareness. From 2015 to 2017, Bitcoin rose from sub-$200 lows in 2015 to nearly $20,000 in mid-December 2017, a cycle that included a dramatic late 2017 explosion as retail interest surged, marking one of Bitcoin's largest percentage advantages from trough to peak. A Bitcoin halving event in July 2016 reduced supply, one factor amongst many which caused thriving price appreciation throughout the year. By January 2015, Bitcoin would have been in a 5th house annual perfection year. This sets the context for the quality of the year. The 5th house rules Purva Punya in Vedic astrology, or past life rewards, offering blessings that manifest as good luck or success. The 5th house is a key house associated with speculative investment, trading, and gambling, and also represents the generative intelligence of humans to create new things with passion, which is why it rules the arts, investments, and children. In financial astrology, it's a particularly good perfection year to be running for speculative investment and gains from those speculations. Again, on 19th of January 2015, the transiting Sun conjunct Bitcoin's natal Jupiter at 29 degrees Capricorn. January and February will always be the best periods of the year for Bitcoin because of its stellium in Capricorn and Aquarius, where 9 out of 13 key planets are in the chart. But this year was different because transiting Jupiter, the greater benefic, was transiting Leo, Bitcoin's first house of self, identity, and body. The first house is the starting point of a birth chart and represents the core of who a person is, so a Jupiter transit here is especially positive. Jupiter will be transiting Bitcoin's first house once more in 2026, albeit running a slightly less positive 6th house perfection year. Then again, it has 4 planets including the Sun and Jupiter in its natal 6th house. Remember, Bitcoin went through huge surges through 2015 and 2016, even though the chart above doesn't make it look like it did. That's because those very strong gains were eclipsed by the rise that occurred from April 2017 onwards. This means it was running a 7th house perfection year defined by transactions, trading, one-to-one business relationships, and the realm of the other in general. We naturally saw a trading spike. In the midpoint of this period, especially the 1st of March 2016, transiting Uranus conjoined Bitcoin's natal midheaven. This point represents the peak of someone's achievements or public reputation in the chart. This was a once-in-84-year transit that really ensured that Bitcoin's rise to prominence and success would continue from this point onwards. Uranus takes 84 years to cycle around the zodiac, and so price action correlated with it isn't always immediate, but it can certainly help, with Bitcoin increasing 50% from the 2 months before to the 2 months after this transit. By April 2017, the Sun had conjunct Bitcoin's midheaven at 18 degrees Aries. The most visible price rise, as indicated in our chart, takes place from October 2017 onwards. Pluto, the planet of power and wealth, is still conjunct Bitcoin's natal Sun within 3 degrees. This slow-moving transit is positioning Bitcoin with real power, wealth, and influence. Pluto is an incredibly potent planet symbolizing deep power, wealth, crisis, and painful transformation. Rahu, the indicator of insatiable greed, was also transiting the first house at this time. By the 26th of December 2017, transiting Saturn, Venus, and Sun all conjoined over Bitcoin's natal Pluto, whilst transiting Pluto was still within 3 degrees of the Sun, with Uranus retrograding back towards the midheaven degree. By January 2018, the price rise is sealed with transiting Jupiter in the most supportive aspect, a trine to Bitcoin's natal Uranus. In contrast, some of Bitcoin's biggest loss periods correlate with the astrology too. From November 2013 to January 2015, Bitcoin lost about 86% after the late 2013 peak above $1,000, culminating in a prolonged decline through early 2015 as exchange issues and tightening regulation weighed in on sentiment. From January 2014, Bitcoin was running a sixth house perfection year until January 2015. The sixth house is an inauspicious house. It represents troubles, obstacles, enemies, debts, grinding, routine, and health issues. It is not a generally positive year to run. It's worth noting Bitcoin will again be running a sixth house perfection year in 2026 when it turns 17 years old. I think the most notable cause here is Pluto compressing the Sun in the sixth house whilst it was running a sixth house perfection year. Context is key in financial astrology. In a less auspicious sixth house perfection year, Pluto, representing destruction and transformation, compressing that natal life force of the Sun at 13 degrees Capricorn, caused some major health issues in the vibrancy of Bitcoin and its price. Jupiter was transiting the 12th house of loss and dispersion at this time. By the 16th of October 2014, Ketu, the planet of loss, reduction, isolation, and dispersion of energy, conjoined the midheaven point of Bitcoin at 18 degrees Aries. This signals major loss in reputation and career for that period of time. Ketu is anti-materialistic and reduces the influence of the material world. It hovers over this point until February 2016. The January 2018 peak to December 2018 trough fell roughly 84% for Bitcoin, representing one of the most severe drawdowns in Bitcoin's modern era, as liquidity unwound and crypto-specific shocks hit the market. From January 2018, transiting Saturn was in his own sign of Capricorn. Saturn is restriction, negativity, discipline, reality, contraction, and solidification. It conjunct the natal Pluto on the 5th of January 2018 and the natal Mars on February 5th. By May 2018, the planet of shock, disruption, surprise, volatility entered Bitcoin's 10th house of reputation, status, and career. This brought on a major shock to the price and a completely unexpected decrease. It's worth noting that this is exactly what happened when Uranus re-entered Taurus this year in 2025. From early April 2025 to mid-August 2025, Bitcoin has increased from 85,000 to 123,000. On the 17th of May, we saw a transiting Uranus-Sun conjunction over Bitcoin's 10th house, with Mercury offering support. Jupiter was still transiting Gemini, the 11th house of gains, whilst Uranus was still transiting Taurus, the 10th house of status. We saw Bitcoin rise from $103,000 to $111,000 just a few weeks after. Once Uranus reached 28 degrees of Taurus, it activated a trine to Bitcoin's Jupiter. From the 3rd of January 2025, Bitcoin turned 16 and entered an auspicious 5th house perfection year. The 5th house is about creative energy, risk, speculation, and generative activity that brings us joy. In financial astrology, it's especially good for investment, risk-taking, and speculation. In Vedic astrology, at age 16, Jupiter's planetary maturation is considered to occur, and this activated Bitcoin's Jupiter placement. The Graha Pakvata indicates the time when a planet gives its full effects in a chart. At the time of writing, I believe we are due to see Bitcoin hit a new all-time high before the end of 2025. So what transits could cause this? On October the 24th, transiting Uranus will form a trine to Bitcoin's Jupiter, likely marking the onset of another price surge. However, Uranus will re-enter Taurus and immediately square the natal Venus, so this is a highly mixed and volatile aspect. Over the past 7 years, Uranus, the planet of innovation and technology, has fundamentally shaped the era of cryptocurrency whilst transiting Taurus, the sign associated with money and resources. Now, Uranus is dipping back into this sign, into Bitcoin's 10th house of career, status, and reputation for one final period, stirring a renewed sense of crypto Wild West volatile energy, especially after the November the 5th full moon in Taurus sweeps in to conjoin Uranus. As December begins, the ruler of Bitcoin's ascendant, the Sun, enters the 5th house of speculation and investment, which is amplified by this being a 5th house perfection year for Bitcoin. At the same time, Venus, the planet of wealth and the ruler of Bitcoin's 10th house of status and reputation, will also transit the 5th house. By December the 5th, Pluto will conjoin Bitcoin's Mercury at 2 degrees Aquarius. December the 14th stands out as particularly favorable, with a stellium of planets transiting the 5th house of speculation and investment, whilst the Uranus-Jupiter trine remains active. Taking all this into account, I'd be surprised if we didn't see another price surge for Bitcoin around December. Sifting through these cycles, we uncover repeating planetary signatures shaping market momentum. We clearly see the Bitcoin astrological chart in action, moving in synchronization with its price rises and falls. All signals suggest a bullish end to 2025, and the astrology suggests a new all-time high. But will that even matter in 2026? In 2026, Bitcoin will turn 17. It will start running a 6th house perfection year. This isn't great in contrast with the year prior, the 5th house perfection year. We already saw a 6th house perfection year occur for Bitcoin 12 years prior in 2014, where one of the biggest Bitcoin bear markets in history occurred. August 2026 also looks ripe for a financial or health crisis around the time of the Jupiter-Pluto opposition, as I explain in my article on August 2026. Quarter 4 2025 and Quarter 1 2026 actually look good for Bitcoin. As per every January and February, the Sun, amongst other planets, sweeps through and hits each point of the stellium of planets that Bitcoin has located in Capricorn and Aquarius. This time around including Mars, Venus, and Mercury, with Pluto conjunct over the natal Mercury in Aquarius. But by March, a debilitated Saturn in Aries will conjoin the natal Moon at 4 degrees Aries. A debilitated Saturn is more likely to show themes of failure to expand, contraction, negativity, decrease, especially on the sense of nourishment and well-being of Bitcoin as it conjoins the natal Moon. If Saturn represents negativity, and the Moon in the chart of an asset represents emotional sentiment, then a debilitated Saturn over the Moon represents negative emotional sentiment. The most positive transit of the year takes place when Jupiter enters Leo, Bitcoin's first house. This might bring some good price growth, but Bitcoin will still be running a 6th house year, and by August we have a debilitated retrograde Saturn in Aries near Bitcoin's midheaven, in a tense and tough square aspect to Bitcoin's natal Sun, exactly at 13 degrees Aries. So I'd be cautious from July through August 2026, especially as this is also when K2, the planet of reduction, loss, and dispersion, will enter Leo, the first house of self, identity, and body for Bitcoin. Chiron, the wounded healer, will also add a punctuation mark to this image as it ingresses into the 10th house of career, which doesn't look good on the short-term basis by 19th of June 2026. Will the Jupiter transit here save Bitcoin's price from falling? Or will the other aspects mentioned overpower this into a bearish price decrease? By August the 8th, 2026, we have a really interesting combination of influences. Jupiter will make a once-in-a-12-year transit to the exact degree of Bitcoin's ascendant, 8 degrees Leo. Pluto and Uranus will both sextile the Moon at the same time that Neptune, the planet of mysticism, conjuncts the Moon. I think this is a really volatile period for Bitcoin with a mix of very challenging and very supportive aspects. Jupiter, expansion, and K2, loss, also conjoin at 25 Leo on the 2nd of November. Is this a bubble-bursting moment? Neptune rules bubbles and it is conjoined over the natal Moon. Is there a delusional sentiment at this time which leads to a bubble burst and a price decrease during the 6th house perfection year as a retrograde debilitated Saturn squares the Sun? We'll have to see. The Vimshottari-Dasha system divides a person's life or an asset's existence into major periods ruled by the 9 planets or Navagrahas, like chapters in a book. Bitcoin is currently in a favorable Mercury Mahadasha until 2034. The next major period is a Mercury-Mars period, which starts on March 11th, 2026. Mars is in the 6th house, exalted in Capricorn, but it is still a traditional malefic in a difficult house. This could lead to some stress or health issues during this period, which would align with the 6th house perfection year and the grim-looking August 2026 period. It's also worth noting that from November 16th, 2025 through to February 8th, 2026, that the Pratyanta Dasha, the sub-sub period, is Venus, planet associated with wealth. Did you know that the January the 3rd chart for Bitcoin, which we've been discussing, has a Lakshmi Raj Yoga, a very fortunate combination in Vedic astrology, which brings wealth, fortune, and high achievements. This occurs when there is a conjunction, aspect, or exchange of the 1st and 9th lords. In Bitcoin's case, this is a conjunction between the Sun and Mars, the 1st lord and the 9th lord. The other potential charts don't have this. But what other Vedic techniques could we use to confirm whether 2026 is fundamentally bullish or bearish for Bitcoin? The Varshaphala of Vedic astrology translates to the fruit of the year or the results of the year. It can speak to the outcome of the upcoming year for the person or asset in question. This chart is cast for the exact moment of the solar return on January the 3rd, 2026. It speaks to the quality of January 3rd, 2026 through January 3rd, 2027 for Bitcoin. K2 is exactly conjunct the ascendant in Virgo. This is concerning because it can signal heavy loss and reduction. However, Jupiter and Moon are conjunct exactly in the 11th house in Cancer, which is a really positive indicator. May and June may actually be a good period, especially the 22nd of May, but as the Sun transits into Virgo late August, early September, it does activate this highly inauspicious signature. This happens to overlap with my caution surrounding August 2026 too, so we may see this price reduction signature take place in the second half of 2026. In general, as Bitcoin becomes more and more implemented into our society, I believe it will become a new store of economic value despite its relative volatility. In the long term, it will hurt you more to not hold any Bitcoin than to wait for a potential 2026 bear market. If a bear market does present itself in 2026, buy it all up, because by 2027, we're entering a much more auspicious 7th house perfection year, defined by new business partnerships, new transactions, and new relationships. Expect accelerated adoption of Bitcoin by institutions. May 2027 looks particularly good for this. By January 2030, we see a truly once-in-a-lifetime powerful conjunction of transiting Pluto and transiting Sun conjoined at 10 degrees Aquarius, right over Bitcoin's natal north node. This is a once-in-a-lifetime destined moment for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the king of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's had a wobbly 2025, but its dominance is due to transform our society over the next 20 years. However, its astrological profile indicates significant volatility ahead in 2026, with critical timing windows that smart traders and investors must navigate carefully. Quarter 4 2025 through Quarter 1 2026 presents good opportunity as Uranus retrogrades back into Bitcoin's 10th house of reputation, coinciding with the usual January-February planetary activations across Bitcoin's powerful Capricorn Aquarius stellium. However, March 2026 marks a crucial turning point when the debilitated Saturn conjuncts Bitcoin's natal moon at 4 degrees Aries, signaling the onset of negative sentiment that could persist through Bitcoin's challenging 6th house perfection year. The most critical risk period centers around June, July, and August 2026, when a retrograde debilitated Saturn squares Bitcoin's natal Sun, while the Jupiter-Pluto opposition creates volatility in the 12th house of loss. 6th house perfection years occur every 12 years for Bitcoin, and historically have correlated with Bitcoin's biggest downturns. For active traders, prepare for heightened volatility and potential reaccumulation opportunities during this period. Long-term investors should recognize that whilst 2026 could present significant challenges similar to the 2014 bear market, Bitcoin's fundamental trajectory towards becoming society's primary store of value remains intact, making any major correction an accumulation opportunity before the more favorable 7th house perfection year beginning in 2027 and the transformational Pluto-Sun conjunction on Bitcoin's north node in January 2030. Each week, I decode the hidden timing of markets through advanced Vedic astrology, analyzing specific cryptos and stocks that no other astrologer has even charted. For just $8 a month, you'll get exclusive deep dive reports that merge an ancient timing technology with modern market cycles, access to my premium podcast. You'll get access to my prediction zone, an easy-to-use website where I track every prediction and forecast I've ever made, where you can reference my predictions for your convenience. Members can also request assets to be analyzed, and there's a private chat community for traders and investors. You also get quick-fire charts on the private group chat showing particular stocks with favorable astrological dates. One accurate call can repay your entire year's membership. Vedic astrology is revealing what traditional market speculation can't. Bitcoin's journey through 2026 will test even the most diamond-handed believers, but the quality of time when this asset was born promises an undefeatable rise to being the gold standard store of value in our global society over the coming decades. Traders should watch for the March 2026 Saturn-Moon conjunction as your signal to reduce leverage and prepare for the August volatility window. These are reaccumulation periods, not exit points. Investors should use any 2026 bear market as your generational buying opportunity. 6th house perfection year challenges are temporary, but the Pluto North Node conjunction in 2030 is transformational. For the astrologers, Bitcoin's chart has the overwhelming majority of its grahas in Capricorn and Aquarius, both Saturn-ruled signs. Saturn delays, but it never denies, and all valuable things require development over time. The older this asset gets, the more valuable it becomes. The auspicious birth nakshatras signal this natal promise. No other astrologer is offering this level of market analysis. As a thank you for diving deep into Bitcoin's astrology with me and making it this far, I'm offering a limited time discount on a monthly subscription to Rowan's Financial Astrology on Substack. Subscribe now and you'll get the edge that others can't even see. The link will be in the description. Om Shanti. Thank you for watching.